A reflection on St. Luke chapter 7, verse 31 to 35. To what then will I compare the people of this generation? And what are they like? They are like children sitting in the marketplace and calling to one another. We played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We wailed, and you did not weep. For John the Baptist has come eating no bread and drinking no wine, and you say he has a demon. The Son of Man has come eating and drinking, and you say, look, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. Nevertheless, wisdom is vindicated by all her children. What is Jesus saying in this passage? And why is it in the Bible at all? These verses from St. Luke are about John the Baptist. John's ministry had been to prepare a people, the Jews, for their Messiah. So great was this work that it had been foretold by the prophet Isaiah. See, I am sending my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way. The voice of one crying out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make his paths straight. So begins St. Mark's Gospel. Not with the birth of Jesus or a genealogy, but with the voice of one crying in the wilderness, a voice proclaiming a baptism of repentance for the forgiveness of sins. We read that people from the whole Judean countryside and all the people of Jerusalem were going out to him and were baptized by him in the river Jordan. In this passage, we are told of the results of John's baptism. When Jesus spoke of John to the people, they acknowledged the justice of God. Why? Because they had been baptized. Their baptism enabled them to perceive the truth of Jesus' words. But by refusing John's baptism, the Pharisees and lawyers had rejected God's purposes for themselves. This passage has two great warnings. Firstly, it tells us of the perils of free will. And secondly, it tells of the sheer perversity of humanity. The present generation's attitude to Jesus was like that of children upsetting each other by refusing to play properly. They didn't like John the Baptist and his way of life because he ate no bread and drank no wine. And along comes Jesus, who did both, and they didn't like him either. Let us think about Jesus' life and ministry up to this time. St. Luke tells us about his baptism by John, his overcoming temptation in the harshest of places. Luke then brings Jesus into Galilee as a great prophet, possessing the power of the Spirit. St. Luke records for us the rejection of Jesus by his own people in the synagogue at Nazareth and by the religious leaders. St. Luke emphasizes that Jesus' mission is characterized by authority and expressed through works of power. Healings of the sick at the end of the Sabbath day, the healing of a leper, of a paralyzed man. The authority of Jesus is demonstrated in respect of both forgiveness and healing. The 12 are called. Jesus descends to the plain where he meets a great multitude of people and where he combines healing with teaching. The Beatitudes are followed by the healing of a centurion's servant and the raising from death of a young man from the village of Nain. Could there be any doubt of who Jesus was? What was the problem? I think verse 35 gives a clue. Jesus says to the people gathered around him that wisdom is vindicated by all her children. This was a way of speaking familiar to the Jews, and we can find examples in Proverbs and Job. Wisdom is seen as a woman, and what she does and says is proved to be right by all those who follow her example, or her children. The perversity of which Jesus speaks is highlighted by what follows. One of the Pharisees, we know his name, Simon, invites Jesus to eat with him. The house would be large with a courtyard where people could gather and watch the goings-on. Suddenly a woman with a bad reputation enters and stands behind Jesus, weeping. She washes his feet with her tears and anoints them with oil. This brings condemnation from the Pharisee. If this man were a prophet, he would not want such a woman near him. Jesus' reply reveals to Simon what a discourteous host he had been in not providing water for Jesus to wash his feet, no kiss of greeting, and no perfume to anoint his head. Perhaps if Simon had submitted to baptism by John, he would have been forgiven by God and could have been able to forgive the woman for doing what he would not do. Amen.